What's good people, and welcome back to the channel here on Crewboy Productions. My name is BK, and this is the Silly, Nerdy, and Wordy podcast, episode number 86, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, my nerdy rewatch series. And in this episode, I'll be getting into my nerdy rewatch series of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. In this rewatch, what's going on, everyone? Hope everyone is doing very well today, this week. And we're going to be talking about Harry Potter, as I'm going to be talking about this Blu-ray right here, another one of my many Blu-rays that I have. And let's get into it, as this is only my second time watching this film overall. But high level, I didn't read the books at all, didn't see the movies when they came out, when they were releasing, except for one. So most of my film watching for this has been on these Blu-rays. And it's very fun and exciting getting back into this Harry Potter world and revisiting it again. And it just feels nice. And I enjoyed my time watching this film, getting back with the characters again, and just the story. It is a more darker tone. There are some new creatures involved, a new character. Some other characters get a little bit more screen time, more dialogue. That's always good to see. And in terms of what I liked, well, I liked a lot about this film, but knowing what I know now, because again, I am revisiting this from a new lens on how I dissect movies and look at movies now versus how I did back then when I first saw this film. And one of the things right off the top, and what I was doing is I was pausing the movie, taking some notes as I was watching it so that I can discuss it here, a little peek behind the camera. And one of the things I noted is things that we didn't know back then when the movies were releasing, or even when the movies were releasing, is the things that they did to set up what eventually happens at the end of this film franchise. Now, again, I have not read the books, but knowing how movie 8 ends, I want to talk about the character of Ginny Weasley, portrayed by the actress Bonnie Wright. Now, spoiler alert if you haven't seen all of the Harry Potter films and you don't know what happens in Deathly Hallows Part 2, this is your warning. But we all know that Ginny eventually ends up being with Harry Potter. They end up being married and they have a couple kids. And so knowing that information just really gave me some insight. Of course, hindsight is 2020, but Ginny didn't have much of a presence in the first film, just in the background. It had the one line. But in this film, once you get to the Weasley house and Harry is sitting down at the table with the Weasley brothers, and Ginny comes running down and she says to her mom, have you seen my jumper? After her mom responds, she looks at the table, she sees her brothers, but then she sees Harry and her eyes get wide and big. And then she runs back upstairs very frantically. And Harry asks, what did I do? And Ron says, quote, she's been talking about you all summer. Annoying, really, end quote. And I want to bring that up because seeds were planted that the love between those two started eventually. You know, she had the crush on him, and ultimately they do end up being together. So they just started to plant those seeds. Obviously, at that point in time, as those movies were releasing back then, I don't believe anybody knew what the end goal was besides the people making the film. And then later on in the film, as they get to the bookstore in Diagon Alley, there's a confrontation with Malfoy. The confrontation happens, and Jenny steps in and says, "Leave him alone." So she stands up for her guy. But again, we know that they ultimately end up being together. So small little seeds there planted of what eventually becomes the two of them as a couple. Just something I noticed and pointed out. I'm sure many people have probably already talked about this. But again, this is me just rewatching this. But that's something I wanted to talk about there as well. Another thing that I noticed was just pretty cool for me, and this is another comparison, is Ron and Harry, they missed the train to go to Hogwarts for the year. They end up taking Ron's dad's flying car, and they eventually get there. But as they're in the flying car, they go through the clouds, and it's a great overarching shot of them going through the clouds and seeing the mountains before they get to the train. And that quick scene right there reminds me of The Sound of Music, the opening of The Sound of Music, because if you have seen the film The Sound of Music, that is how the film opens up. It goes into the clouds and into the mountains before it gets to Maria as she's, turning, and the horns and the music starts playing, but it's over, like, overarching helicopter shots of the mountains. And so that quick shot right there in this Harry Potter film reminded me of The Sound of Music opening. Just very quick, brought back thoughts of that as I watch that film every year. And again, I'm going to see that Broadway show in a couple of days. So that was very cool to see that. Now, the rest of the film, like I said, I enjoyed the new characters, the Dobby character, Dobby creature, the different creatures, and just the darker tone. They're in year 2, and just everything that's happening. And the Chamber of Secrets is ultimately opened by he who shall not be named, and trying to get back at Harry Potter. So another attempt at that is just continuing to happen with that. And structure of the story, the runtime, it's about 2 hours and 41 minutes, and it made sense. It didn't feel too long. I think the rhythm and the pacing of this film was working for me. I liked how it ultimately, at a certain point in the third act of the film, it's really focused on Harry, because Hermione is unavailable at the time, as well as Ron. So it's just Harry. But the three of them get a good amount of screen time in the film. But in the third act of the film, it's all about Harry until they reunite later on in the film. But it's just great to be back in this Harry Potter world. Watching it again a second time, it still holds up. I don't really have too much production things to say about it besides there is one thing I was saving towards later on, and that is Dumbledore's office. One of the things I saw on the Blu-ray features, not many stuff to dive into, but Dumbledore's office was built for it was a set that they had to build to film. And per the production designer Stuart Craig, he said at the busiest it took 200, I'm paraphrasing, 250 construction workers to build the Dumbledore set. So a lot of people in different disciplines, whether it was painters, carpenters, plasters, electricians, and many other disciplines they had to have in order to build that one set. That doesn't even include the people that eventually had to decorate the set with the set decorators and all of those and that team and putting those items in place. And then they also had, I wasn't going to say this before, but the greenhouse that the first class that we see in movie number 2 for Harry Potter is the greenhouse. And that set was also built for them to have that there. And of course, as we know, a lot of sets are built for films and movies. Some are built from the ground up, some are shot on studios, on location. But, you don't always get those particular details when it's, 250 people to build one set within a movie, and there are a lot of sets in that movie. So really enjoyed learning about those details as well. And I don't have really too much to say about it. I mean, the story and everything is great. It's great to be back in the Harry Potter world. I like how the little bit more of a darker tone with this film. And one other thing I remember, one of the production featurettes is when you go into the Weasley house and you see the things going on with the pot scrubbing by itself, and then you see the knitting, the two knitting the sweater. One of the things that they did to do that, it was, I believe it was somebody's parent did the knitting, and they said they filmed that person filmed her knitting the sweater to get the motion of the knitting happening. And so they didn't put her in it, but they filmed how her hands were moving and with the two stitches of the knit. And so that's how they got the motion of the movement of the knitting with no actual physical hands knitting. So that's how they got that movement there, by filming someone doing it off camera and then taking her movements and integrating in it to that movement. So that is something I picked up while watching the Blu-ray featurette, the making of this film. I wasn't going to mention it, but it just came to mind. One of the last things I'll say is the end of the film, as they are in Dumbledore's office. Something I've noticed on screen at this time. Harry Potter is in Dumbledore's office. Dumbledore is in the office, and Lucius Malfoy is in the office along with Dobby. And they're talking. The conversation is between Dumbledore and Lucius Malfoy. And the thing that I noticed, I paused it right away, and it's probably something maybe not many people pay attention to unless you're really, really into the weeds with it. But the lighting on the actor Jason Isaacs, which portrays Lucius Malfoy, the lighting on him, you see that there is a dark shadow underneath him towards the bottom half of his face and a little bit of light at the top of his face, but it's mostly a dark shadow to emphasize that he is, the bad guy. He is evil. He is in House Slytherin. And then you look, when they get the camera onto Dumbledore, you see how his lighting is different. It's brighter. It's a more brighter yellow orange color palette versus what you see on Malfoy's lighting, the darkness of that. Just an interesting contrast is something I noticed watching this film just now. So just cool contrast, just leaning into the good versus evil side there. Just a small thing I noticed on screen, which is a good choice by the director and the DP, director of photography, possibly the colorist is involved in that decision as well. So great job with that. And then how this film ends. They are in the dining hall. Hermione is reunited with Ron and Harry. They're all sitting at their tables, and then the camera pans back. Is moving slowly overall, and you see them high level in the table in the dining hall, and then it moves back again. You see it through the window, and the camera keeps moving back, and you get a nice big wide shot of the castle, which is lit at night, and then you see the river as well, and then it fades to black, credits roll. The way that ended, that was just a nice thing, something I noticed, something I like to see. That's a little bit nerdy, but I think it's cool the way they did that. A lot of films end like that, and some version of that, but again, something I wanted to talk about, and that's all I have to say about this film in my nerdy rewatch of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And I am going to keep this nerdy rewatch series going I'm going to go through all of these Harry Potter films and other franchises that have multiple films as well, and some one-offs. I'll be getting into more films, different films, lesser known films, probably lesser popular films, but I'll be getting to Harry Potter movie number 4 eventually later on. I'm going to be looking at The Fighting Temptations. I believe that's going to be the next Blu-ray, or in this case DVD, The Fighting Temptations, that was released in 2003, stars Cuba Gooding Jr. and Beyonce, and a lot of great musical acts in that lesser known film. But I'm going to do that along with many others, Dune Part 2 and other films. I also get into Twilight. Those Twilight films, eventually I have all 5 of those on Blu-ray too. So subscribe for more if you want to see those films and other films. Let me know in the comments what you thought about my review. Did you enjoy Harry Potter movie number 2 when it was released in theaters years ago? Are you excited about the new Harry Potter show that will be coming out soon in the next few years on HBO Max, as it's going to be I believe it's a prequel series? So that'll be releasing soon in possibly 2027 or 2028. They're currently filming the show right now, as they've had some production sets and videos released online. But that's all for today. So subscribe for more. Follow me on all podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, I still have the blog going on. I have 6 blogs up there right now, and so check those out. With that, I want to send all of you good vibes for the rest of your day, and until next time, we will talk soon.